that'll be the payoff for going and getting all the weird stuff they ask for. Now, this is the one that's interesting. Heavy battle tech armor. I don't know about you, but that sounds an awful lot like the Titan suit. I mean, we've already got the ICT, so it would make sense that they bring in the Titan suit. I still am 50-50 on that because I would assume the Titan suit would not drop prior to Squadron 42, but then again, I said the same thing about the Idris, and look at us now. New hairstyles, 432, adding 2 new hairstyles. They're military haircuts, basically high and tight. AI FPS turret. This is one that got bounced out of 431. AI FPS turret adding anti-personnel turrets for players to avoid or destroy, providing additional PvE challenges. One thing I'm hoping is they dial in the respawn, because blowing up tower turrets, the anti-air turrets at underground facilities, they respawn really, really quick. And bunkers, I believe, you blow them up, and by the time you've landed, they're already respawning and shooting at you again, which just kind of makes it pointless to blow them up. Anyway, mission pickup on location. Again, there's another one that they were hoping to get into 431. Instead, they're bouncing at 432, enabling new missions to be discovered and added to journals when you approach or enter a designated area, which is cool because now you'll arrive at an area and all of a sudden you'll have a bunch of new missions that pop up for that location or within that area, as opposed to picking up a mission and it turns out that it's around another planet or on the other side of the system or in another system. Progress tracker. They had crafting, engineering, FPS, radar, and scanning, inventory rework, transport, refactor, and command module. All of these are pretty interesting, and we'll be talking about them in just a second. What I wanted to look at first, we got 4.3 here, the things that we're getting. NPC dropships is released. I still haven't tested that, but FPS turrets are on the way. Scroll down here. This is the heavy battle tech armor. So it looks like it's based on the, I forget what they call the armor that's down in the ASD science wing. Anyway, it looks like it's that, but kind of an armored up version. Looks very Australian. You Australians out there will understand what I mean by that. And the new hairstyles, we're going to get 2 new haircuts. You can see them right there. They're just, actually, those are different ones. So you're getting a mohawk and you're getting kind of a receding hairline. That's interesting. I still just think 2 things that would help their character models is 2 progressive sliders, one for male pattern baldness, because you could go everything from, you know, a full head of hair, roll the slider across to full bald, and it just kind of removes splines from the hair model, from whatever hair model it is, and you could end up with like a Picard or all of the hairstyles in between for free. Another one they could do is aging, where it adds in white, and for women their hair tends to go white from the middle out. For men, it tends to start down here and work their way up their sideburns onto the top of their head. So you could just have an aging line or scroll bar that does the same thing. And then again, you're getting a bunch of hairstyles, or at least styles in the sense of coloring, for free. Sort of surprised they haven't done that yet. Probably more complicated than I think it is. That's what I think. Let's see. All of these are released. We're good. Here's one. So, missions and events. A new event related to Fight for Pyro storyline. I am kind of curious where this one will go. The Fight for Pyro ones have been kind of hit or miss, but they really nailed like the last couple events they've done. So, kind of looking forward to that, at least in my opinion. New Wicklow ships. Yeah, no big surprise there. And then they're redoing Klaus and Werner, and they don't have a picture. But here you can sort of see what they did with Bearing. They put on these big heat sinks out here. Kind of gave them almost like an Idris feel on the railgun to the bigger versions that kind of have that plus. Kind of cool. But anyway, that's all the stuff that's coming in 4.3.2. But anyway, let's get into the progress tracker. All right, so I haven't done one of these for a while, so I'm just going to kind of touch. You can kind of see that I've got some things pre-gamed here that I'm just going to talk about or touch on. Some of these I've talked about a lot in the past, but I'm not going to dive too deep into this, or this thing will be 45 minutes. But if you want a deeper dive, let me know, and I'll kind of go into all of the things I think are really significant for the future production of this game. This is actually one of them that I thought we were going to be getting with the Apollo, but we still haven't seen it. This is DNA integrity, medical insurance, cybernetic limbs, and cloning. They've kind of gone for an interim status here on medical gameplay that I was thinking this would be plugged into, because they worked on this ages ago. Like, this was a year or two back that they worked on this kind of stuff. The DNA integrity, if I have to guess, is going to be the sort of governing feature of Death of a Spaceman, is that the more times you respawn, the more times your DNA integrity breaks down, the more likely you are, if you're suffering from a major injury or something and you respawn, that it won't actually bring it back. And I think the next level of medical will be a doctor or a medical player playing the medical loop can actually work on your clone as you're respawning and make sure that that tier 1 arm injury results in you keeping that arm rather than losing it and having to get cybernetic limbs. And I imagine the type of place you respawn will start to have an impact if you're using the automatic system, like respawning at your home hab or whatever. Like, if you respawn at Grim Hex, the chances of you losing a limb or having some lasting effect will probably be much higher than if you're spawning somewhere like Orison or ArcCorp that has very good facilities. But that's one of those things I just always kind of like to touch on this one, because they worked on it a long time ago and we still haven't really seen any of this. It just also includes hygiene, which is going to be a huge part of the social aspect of the game in the future. But anyway, that's one of them that I like to touch on. Obviously, like to talk about a lot. Aerodynamic control surfaces. We're kind of seeing the first iterations of this coming in the game now. Right now, if you have an aerodynamic ship like Gladius, you can actually glide. You can shut off your engines and glide. I haven't tried it with the Prowler yet, but I'm gonna very shortly. AI arcade machine. Now, I don't really care about the arcade machine, but so far we have AI that just kind of walks around the station. It's nice to see them not standing on chairs, but we haven't quite got that lifelike aspect yet. But what we're waiting for is them to have actual life. And you can sort of see all the AI they're working on here. Leisure, medical, not so much, but janitor. Imagine walking around ArcCorp and seeing like a guy actually cleaning the streets, like moving all of those bottles that players drop everywhere, putting them into trash bags, or, vacuuming them, would probably be the easier animation to do. But there's other things. Navigation links, elevator, and transit. Again, this is for AI. So this is having NPCs go on and off of elevators, go on and off of trains, and eventually they'll translate into NPCs going on and off ships. So you'll be able to start doing the passenger game loop. So this is all really big stuff. And for whatever reason we haven't seen it yet, I'm guessing it's a priority thing with Squadron 42 sucking up a lot of the AI and NPC behavior specialists. And probably, honestly, they're waiting for dynamic server meshing, so they have enough memory to kind of free up things like AI, off-duty activities, hygiene. And you can see a lot of these are in Squadron 42, so we're probably going to be seeing them in Squadron 42, and then they're going to start migrating them into the verse as time goes on. But anyway, I always like to point that out, because what we're seeing as NPCs in the verse right now is not going to be the end version of them. Like, NPCs that can go EVA. I'll just throw that out there. Asteroid facilities. So I just want to mention this one. We actually have asteroids and we've had them in the game for a while. I am hoping one of the things that they'll do when they start rolling out base building is that we'll be able to do base building on an asteroid, because for me, with the Carnival, an asteroid facility is kind of like a hidey hole or something like that, is much more in line than a big ground base. We will certainly have one of those as a place to trade, but as a bolt hole for the stuff that we creatively procure would be much more in line. And I'm sure pirate orgs would say the same thing. They would much rather have an asteroid base kind of hidden away where anyone coming near you is obviously a threat, as opposed to on the ground, someone might just be flying around the planet and be like, what's that? Especially when the planets are, 10% the size, so you can actually see facilities from space. Makes it a little bit easier. So if you got a big base, it's going to be real obvious unless they start letting us build exotic underground bases, which I'm not going to hold my breath for. Base building, speaking of. You can sort of see that it runs into November. One of the things I always used to say that still applies is just because the bar ends here, it just means that's what the planned sprint is. That does not mean that's when they're going to deliver it. So base building, likely I am expecting them to turn this on next year. I expect 2026 to be the year of crafting and base building, which is what 2025 was supposed to be. But then someone higher up there, Richard Tyler, Chris Roberts, or both, they've certainly done enough game development, have said, we have so much code rot and legacy code that's causing problems. Let's just take the hit, spend a year busting that out. We'll take the PR hit. We'll release Squadron 42 sometime in 2026. And we'll focus on base building and crafting, but we'll have this 1 year where we're just focusing on stability and cleaning up the code. Anyway, base building next year. Command module. Okay, for people who are fans of the Ironclad, which sounds like it's moving pretty far into production, and the Caterpillar, this is for you. You can sort of see Q1 of next year. So I would say expect the Ironclad and probably the Caterpillar working, with a working command module to happen, I would say Invictus of next year. So not IAE of this year or SitCon of this year. It'll be next year, probably at least a few months in. Crafting, again, ends here in December, definitely not going to end work. This is probably where it'll kind of start. They might drop a little bit of crafting on us, like more than we have now. Like right now you can quote unquote craft a multi-tool and a module or two from RMC. That's going to greatly expand. Like you're going to need quartz, you're going to need titanium, you're going to need all these raw parts, and they're going to have to be refined. And you're going to need probably refined bits like computer boards and things like that. They're going to have like a whole chain and recipes going into it. Crafting is going to be really involved. It always is in games like this. But anyway, December, no, we're not getting in December. We're going to start getting elements of it next year, probably, if I had to guess, starting in like March or June, hopefully sooner, but I would not hold my breath. Engineering, another gigantic one that I think they wanted to drop in 2025, but instead they ended up, they're going to aim for 2026. So we're going to get a couple versions of it in Arena Commander, probably see what they've been doing with it in the last year or so, since the last time they had a tech demo on it. They're probably going to have another tech demo that's going to be a little bit more involved. But yeah, engineering is going to be something that's going to impact every single aspect of the game, including and especially base building. FPS radar scanning, again, this is one that's been on the radar for a while. Yeah, this is walking around on foot. It's going to be involved in Squad 42. We've already seen demos of it working there. You can set off a ping while you're on foot and see all the things that are around you. It'll tag interactables and stuff like that, but it'll make you more visible to other people that happen to be looking for that sort of thing. They'll know they just got pinged. So next year sometime. Gatakaralian. So I thought there was a chance the Gatakaralian would be kind of a dark horse for release at some point within the next 6 months or so. Doesn't look like it is. I know they're working on it again, so this is a little bit out of date, but yeah, maybe end of next year. It would be a cool one to drop on us. I was hoping it would be the end of this year, and not going to be the case. Inventory rework. This is a really cool one because the inventory system is clunky. Again, ends in October. We might get an iteration of it for SitCon or IAE. It does look like it's pretty far along, but no promises on that. Again, this just indicates when they know this current sprint ends, which is why I call this Sprintwatch. Not necessarily when work on the inventory thing works or ends. And you can see this is 17 weeks, so going to be a little while. This is just kind of a fun one. The Orison mascot suit. We have seen this in a couple trailers. I think it was Assault on Orison, whatever that event was, and a couple of the videos in the background. You could see the mascot suit was kind of dancing around. Basically think of like Mickey Mouse suit or something like that, except it's the space whale. And yeah, we haven't seen it yet. So there's another AI thing to look forward to. Rope simulation. I always used to talk about this one. It ran 85 weeks. I think they only had one guy on it, and he was kind of working on it off and on. We still haven't seen what this is. I'm assuming it'll be big for exploration, because you would think being able to rappel or climb up or down ropes would be kind of cool. They haven't worked on it for ages, so they might have gone a different way. That is true with a lot of these. Another thing that I just saw here was plasma ammunition. We had a whole bunch of different ammunition types that I thought were going to give us options as far as, like if you had a big gun, you could say, oh, I'm going to use plasma ammunition, I'm going to use disruption ammunition. So it would totally change the aspect of the weapon you were using. I think it might be that general categories of guns will have ammunition. So you'll have plasma weapons, that kind of thing. But I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm kind of hoping I'm wrong, because it would be cool to be able to vary what a gun does based on what kind of ammunition you do or put in it. Player reflection. Well, we got it in one ship. Reflections are really, really costly in any game. In MMOs, they're kind of unnecessary. It would be kind of a cool way to do it, to be able to adjust your character in minor ways, like shave your beard or change your hair color, or whatever, something like that. Redacted creature. So I was hoping this would be the pyro crab. It's looking like it's a variant of the Valakar that looks more like it's kind of got a dragon head and it's a big snake. That's what we've seen. Whether that's a troll or something real, don't know, but it looks like it's probably that. Basically a cave snake thing, very large. We'll see. Should be cool. Again, 17 weeks for a full creature is pretty quick, but if they're busting them out that fast, that says good things about the future. Space mines. I always kind of bring this one up because back when they were working on this 2 or 3 years ago for 54 weeks, again, I think it was like 1 or 2 people kind of working on it off and on for that amount of time, but still 54 weeks that's over a year in dev time. That's like a year and a quarter of dev time, just given some of the breaks that they're given. Yeah, even if you don't have a Nautilus out there dropping out space mines, having like a minefield in somewhere like Pyro or Nyx or Castra would kind of makes sense. So you would think this would be rolling out sooner than later. Also kind of weird that it's not in Squadron 42, but that might explain why we haven't seen it yet. Space Whale. Still haven't seen the Space Whales. Storm Walls. I seriously thought they would have been in game a year or two ago. So kind of weird. Transport Refactor. This cannot come soon enough. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's probably going to come this year. Yeah, the trains are still kind of weird. Elevators are still kind of weird. This will fix all of them. Looks like it's a little ways off, so sometime next year. Again, you kind of have to bake in that January is typically kind of a lost month, and then February they're kind of spinning up from January. They start having all their meetings and stuff like that, and then March you start to really see work happening. And not that meetings aren't work, but there you go. Utiliflex crossbow. We keep seeing little things on this. It's a weird little gun, but it was part of this the Kickstarter stretch goals, so they've got to do it. It looks like they've got the model completed. They're just trying to work some of the physics and make it actually drop correctly and stuff like that, because they couldn't do it the easy way. Unannounced vehicles. Just kind of wanted to show you. This is how many unannounced vehicles they have actually worked on. And you can see there are a ton of them. So the ones that I wanted to talk about was mainly this one right here. I have heard a couple rumors that this might be the reason why it looks so weird, is because it might be a ship from a ship dealer that just deals in junk parts. So he's just kind of slapping these ships together with, hey, I've got a part from this ship and a part from this ship and a part from this ship, and I'm calling this one the Goobly-Gook, and you can take it out. And so, yeah, and maybe that's what this is. This would be very cool if that's the case, for one extremely good reason. And that's because we already know we have crafting. We already know we're going to have recipes to build things like the Bengal Carrier and Polaris's Hornets. We can build ships that exist, but I am positive the devs at Star Citizen looked at Starfield and saw that the most popular, really the only popular feature of that game, and like space engineers and that kind of stuff, is building your own ship. And Star Citizen and CIG would be dumb as hell to not cash in on that and start. I wouldn't think that they would let you make your own ship of, you know, from scratch, kind of like you can in Space Engineers, but something similar to Starfield. I could really see that you've got a bunch of parts and you can make a ship from that. And then you could integrate that into the engineering system so people couldn't just make super ships. Like, this ship has the fastest engines, the biggest guns, and huge shields, and the thickest armor. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to do that because you'd have to have a gigantic power capacity to kind of balance all those things out. So, I mean, I guess you could, but it would cost trillions of dollars and you wouldn't be able to build it. Or it would, yeah, they could limit it through the features of the games. And I just wanted to put that out there as a possibility for what this ship could represent, if that's what it is, if it's just kind of a slapdash ship. And I think, nope, one more. GN facial rigging. That's right. So one thing that I'm hoping for, we have our first Banu in the game with Wicklow. Squadron 42, obviously the GN are going to play a part here, but this is also a Star Citizen asset, which obviously we're going to have GN in the game eventually, probably with Castra, but there's no reason why they can't drop GN on us prior to that, having some sort of trader or GN operating in some capacity in Stanton system or Pyro or Nyx would be very interesting. Actually, Nyx would make some sense. Maybe have them be a mission giver or something in a different capacity than Wicklow. They can't all be traders. And gang, that's all I got for this one. If you'd like to hear about any of these other things, or you want my opinion on it, or you want to give me your opinion on it, by all means do so in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Still trying to grow this channel. It's slow going these days because they keep flipping the algorithm around, but if you watch it and other people watch it, then that's what helps the algorithm. All right, gang, take it easy. Catch you next time.